Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining this session of Microsoft Information Protection in Teams SharePoint OneDrive Exchange. This is part 2 of the session, and we'll have a part 1 which you should take a look. I am Sanjoy Mustafi, Senior Program Manager. I specifically work in security and compliance for Teams and SharePoint. So let's jump right in. In this session, you will learn about the major challenges that we have to protect the information that we store in OneDrive and SharePoint and Teams. And then we will see the current settings and new features that we have rolled out that can help you overcome those challenges. So let's just dive right in. Microsoft Information Protection provides you security at different levels. At first, the protection is at a service level. For example, holistically, how do you protect the content in Teams and SharePoint, who you are sharing to, who can download content. So these are the things that Microsoft Information Protection label can provide. More about that in our part 1. In this session in specific, we will talk about protecting the content, as we call, or documents and emails. We will see within the set of workloads that you use regularly, which is SharePoint, Teams, how you can protect individual document and the protection stays with the document. There are other sessions that will cover prevention of data loss, and you should look for them as well. So let's go to the next slide. To start with, just a brief introduction about protecting content in Teams SharePoint sites. There are 3 distinct controls that are available. The first one is protecting by virtue of privacy. So you can select public or private. This determines who in your organization can join the team. The second one is about controlling if the owner of the team can let a guest member join the team or not. Then you can further control if your users are using a device that is managed by your organization or not. Depending on whether the device is managed or not, you can control if the site can open, if the site can not download and only open in an online manner, etc. So they have a lot of granular controls. Finally, we are introducing a new feature where you will be able to control guest sharing. For example, you can right-click on a document in SharePoint or OneDrive and share the document with your guest. In order to prevent that or to limit that, it's always needed for the administrator to go and make change. With the Microsoft's new information protection labels, you can now control it via the labels. If your users choose the right label for teams and sites, they will not be able to share or have limited sharing experience just by choosing the label. All of these are covered in detail in our demo for part 1, so do take a look at that. Okay, now in this session, we will go in details about protecting individual documents. So the first part of my demos will cover how you can label your document manually. And once you label the document manually, what are the different settings that apply to that? Manual labeling, and I'll show the demo just after this. Manual labeling covers protection via encryption. When you apply a label to a document, the label stays with the document. You can also apply content marking like headers, footers, and watermark. Let's see how a definition of a label looks like in the Security and Compliance Center. The few other things that you can also do, which I would like to cover, is once the document is encrypted, and as you have seen in my demo previously, it can also be searched. Previously, you were not being able to search documents that are encrypted in OneDrive and SharePoint. We have opened that ability, and you as a regular user or as an e-discovery admin can search encrypted content seamlessly like any other regular content. So this is our first demo. I'm in my Teams experience. As you can see, this experience shows the sensitivity label seamlessly when the label is applied to documents, any Office file types. Confidential, I have marked one of the files and one of the files as top secret. This file is open. So if I move to the document viewer view, and I have chosen the label confidential. The watermarks are applied seamlessly. On bottom left, you can also see the document is labeled. You can also see co-authoring works seamlessly. So this document is opened by another colleague, Alex, and we are able to co-author together. So encrypted documents work seamlessly across all workloads in the cloud. Just to show you another example, this is a Word document that I have in the browser open. Again, it's an encrypted document. That lock icon on your bottom depicts that the label has encryption on it. So the question is, how do you apply encryption and content marking and other protection to a labels? Let's now switch to the view of an admin. So this is the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center where you define the information protection labels. Okay, let me show you one of the labels that I have. Let me choose the labeled top secret. Okay, so I'll go ahead and edit the label. The first part, it is regular information that you need to provide that gets displayed to the end user. You need to provide a display name, description that appears as a tooltip when you select the label. As a next step, you can also select that the label applies in what scope. This is a new feature, so it will be coming up very soon. Files and emails or groups and sites. I choose files and emails. After you choose files and emails, then it will ask you for whether you want to attach encryption. So let's go ahead. I have already attached encryption to the security groups. Inside encryption, you have a flexibility to choose the permissions. So there are some out-of-the-box permissions that are available, or you can choose custom and then select the right set of permissions that applies to your organization. The next step will be to apply the right content marking. As an example, I have selected a content marking that will apply as top secret and comes displays horizontally. You can change the text based on, again, your organization's policies, and you can apply the text, for example, Microsoft Confidential or Contoso Confidential and things like that. Once you do that, as a last step, I have the label saved. You need to publish the label. That's a very important piece of step, because unless you publish the label, your end users will not be able to use the label in the context of documents and emails. So for publishing, step one is to select the label. So you can select one or more labels. So you can choose. For now, I have just selected one label that I would like to publish. The next step is very critical, where you choose the people who can see the label and use the label. Okay, here I have selected all, but of course you can go ahead and select a specific set of people that you would like to, choose if you want it. For example, you can have a label that applies to your HR department or legal department. So you can kind of limit the scope or the audience to that specific department or set of people. For now, I'll leave it as all. And as a last step, you would like to specify that if this label would be your default label or not. If that's the case, then any document that is created and saved in cloud will start in taking that label as their default label. You can also specify whether or not if somebody removes this label or downgrades the label, then they need to provide justification for auditing purposes or not. You can also make sure that the application of labeling, the action of application of labeling is mandatory. So this option helps you to ensure that labels are mandatory. That's all about the label management in Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. My next slide talks about protecting the document by the service automatically. So how you can protect the content when your users are not involved. A classic example of the scenario is, let's say you already have several contents hosted in SharePoint and OneDrive over a period of years. Those files might have sensitive information, for example, credit card number, SSN number, PCI number, and whatnot, or PII data. In order to find those content out of millions and billions of documents that are hosted in your SharePoint and OneDrive, we have provided the way to do automatic labeling, automatic finding and labeling of content. In Office 365 Security and Compliance Center, now you can configure policies, and the policies can use the inbuilt sensitive types, or you can use your custom types in future to create policies that will go and search for those contents against SharePoint and OneDrive and show it to you, and then you can choose to label those contents manually. There are some limits, and we will talk about that, but as an admin, you will be able to run this in an automated way without involving the user. Let's see a demo how you can create such a policy in the Security and Compliance Center. One of the important things I would like to show is once you apply the encrypted label to a document, the document is still searchable with the right user set. For example, this document is already encrypted. You see the lock icon with the label top secret, as I showed you earlier. It has a keyword Cortex. For demonstration purposes, I put this keyword. Now, if I go to my SharePoint homepage and use the keyword Cortex, I will be able to get results. Now, why am I getting the results? Because I am part of the labels encryption. If the same keyword was used by someone else, then who is not part of the labels encryption, the result set will not show this specific file. So encryption and protection goes hand in hand with label. Okay, now I'm going to move to my last demo, which is automated labeling. So here in the third tab under information and protection, you will see the tab for auto labeling. In auto labeling, I have already created a couple of policies, and I will walk you through creation experience of a new policy. So when you choose the create option for a new automated labeling policy, you get a similar experience like when you enforce a DLP policy. There are out of the box categories that you can choose from: financial, medical, privacy related, etc. We support more than 100 plus out of the box automated sensitivity types. So you can choose one of them, or you can choose a custom policy as well. So let's say we choose one of the policies as US Social Security number as your policy. So I want to search if my document has Social Security number and apply a label accordingly. So I should give a name and description. And now this is the most critical part where you get to choose the location where you want to apply these policies. So you may have many sites. So if you can target now where you want to apply these policies. So in case of SharePoint sites, you can choose the sites that you want to target your policies to. Okay, so let's use global sales as one of the locations where I would like to run this policy. I am going to put that address and hit done. You can put address of multiple sites. I did not add that, so I'll click the plus button at the site and go and say done. So it says one site chosen. Here you need to specify between common rules and advanced rules. So you can go and choose advanced rules, and then it will give you a rich set of policies that or rules that you can set, how many occurrences, or and there are other rules that you can configure. For now, I will go ahead and go with the default. And once you do that, the final step is the vital step where you now get to select the labels that you will apply, the system is going to apply once the criteria that you defined is met. So I click on choose a label. Now this is going to load all the labels that are existing in my organization. For example, in this case, if SSN number is present, I want to choose the label as top secret. So you want to choose the right label that applies to your organization, and that's it. Once you configure that, the label is ready. The label needs to mandatorily run in a simulation mode because the service is going to run it against the target and show you how many matches has happened. I will show you some policies that I created earlier, which are already running in the simulation mode. So this is a policy that I created for US financial data like credit card numbers, etc. So this is running for the last 14 hours because I'm running for a larger set against several sites, and there are some matches that are happening. So you can find how many matches that has happened against all the rules. It will show you the set of rules that you have configured, etc. I have another configured for PCI. So if you have seen the screen, it is running for, I configured it yesterday, so it's running for last 17 hours, and it has got 40 matches. Okay, so you can click on view all, and it is going to show you the matched items that are there against this simulation. And once you are ready, then you can say run the policy in simulation mode, like I showed you just now in the other examples that I've previously created. It will go ahead and create the policy, and the policy will run. You can visit when the simulation run is over, and that's the time you can hit the button. We can say that, hey, now go ahead and apply the label, and it will go and apply the top secret label against the policy set that we have created. Thanks. I hope you liked the demo. Do note that currently the Microsoft Information Protection labels with encryption applies to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint files. In future, we are going to increase the scope and make it work for PDF files as well.